the results speak for themselves. The people saw through a lot of the noise.
I will bring the fight to Ottawa. I will fight for this community, and I will fight for this country, and you will always have an advocate for freedom as long as I am your member of Parliament. So thank you, everyone.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in St. Thomas, Ontario, and specifically I'm in the riding of Elgin, St. Thomas, London South. We are in the watch area, now a victory party for the Conservative candidate for this riding. That would be Andrew Lawton. And it really was quite a campaign, I should think. That's because if you followed it, there were elements of the mainstream media who were unfair at best, vicious at worst in terms of their coverage of Andrew Lawton, dredging up things from the past that were completely irrelevant. Andrew Lawton, in addition to going up against the Liberal, NDP and PPC challengers, he was also going up against the media party. He was also going up against leftist activists who were so motivated that they were actually staging demonstrations in front of his campaign office. Can you imagine that? And still, with all that opposition, official and unofficial, Andrew Lawton prevailed. This riding is a fairly safe Conservative riding. It's been Tory blue since the year 2000. It was most recently held by Karen Vecchio for the last 3 terms, actually. Karen decided not to run this election, and that created an opening for Andrew Lawton, who we should point out did run as a progressive Conservative in the 2018 provincial election, but did not win his seat in that campaign. Andrew just made his victory speech. He noted that his team knocked on more than 28,000 doors. He knocked on 5,000 doors just by himself. In any event, here's a few things what Andrew had to say, and he also held a brief media scrum. Check it out.
It's obviously a bittersweet result as we see that the Conservatives nationally, and there are still a lot of votes to be counted and a lot of seats to be called, but may not be forming government. But at the end of the day, I will be able to personally hold the Liberals to account, which is so necessary. It was painfully obvious coming into this that there would be big shoes to fill, and I intend to work as hard as I can to ensure that that legacy of community representation is alive and well, because that is so crucial and so important to the people of this riding and so essential to the role of Member of Parliament. I also want to thank my opponents in this race. David Goodwin, the Liberal candidate, continued to stress the importance of local and community representation in politics. Paul Piggin ran an incredibly honorable campaign and has been a tireless advocate for those in marginalized communities, and I think there are a lot of things that he brings to the table that I'm glad he did in the course of this campaign. And Stephen Campbell with the People's Party, who had the courage to put his name on a ballot and try to bring up issues that matter to him. I thank all of my opponents and want to give them a round of applause, because politics isn't politics without opposition. I also spoke to people knocking doors that had tremendously difficult stories about where we are as a country. From the woman who said she was voting a party other than Liberal. She was voting Conservative for the first time because she had 2 adult sons that never thought they would ever be able to move out of her house. The husband and wife I met that are on the verge of losing their house because a landlord bought it from them, or the landlord rather decided to sell it, and they don't know if they're going to be able to find another home because of the price of rents. To the RV dealer that wonders if he even has a business with a trade war with the United States. I want all of you to know that I hear you, and I hear your concerns, and your words and your stories are etched on my heart and on my mind, and I will take them to Ottawa. I will bring the fight to Ottawa. I will fight for this community, and I will fight for this country, and you will always have an advocate for freedom as long as I am your Member of Parliament. So thank you, everyone. God bless you, and let's do this!
Andrew, do you think looking back at your campaign, this is an especially euphoric victory for you? And by that I mean, I look at some of the mainstream media coverage, which was perhaps unfair at best, vicious at worst. You had demonstrators picketing outside your campaign office. So in other words, it wasn't just you going up against the Liberal, NDP and PPC candidate, it was the media, special vested interest groups, and yet you still won. What do you say reflecting back on that?
The results speak for themselves. The people saw through a lot of the noise. The people were motivated by the need for change nationally, and also a lot of people that knew exactly what I stood for. They were familiar with my work back when I was in talk radio, my work in media over the last decade, and knew exactly who I was and what I was bringing to the role. So I made that point in all of my videos and comments, and when I was talking to people one-on-one at the door. But as I said, the people have spoken.
And Andrew, typically in Canadian history, a minority government lasts about 18 months on average. Do you think you're back knocking on 5,000 doors 18 months from now, and maybe there will be another result for that election?
Look, I'm going to be knocking on doors before the next election because I think as a member of Parliament, I want to make sure I have my finger on the pulse of the constituents that I'm representing. When the next election is, I don't know. This one only ended a few hours ago, so I don't have an answer for what's going to come in a year and 2 years. But at the end of the day, I think that we desperately need to get the Liberals out of power.
And one last question, Andrew. If you look at the polls going back a few months ago, they were indicating a Conservative majority. Now, as we see, it's a Liberal minority. When we ask the question, what went wrong, what do you think were the dynamics that swung this election so dramatically?
Look, I think once we see the total vote count and exactly what's happened, I think there are going to be a lot of ways to analyze it, and I'm happy to have another conversation to do that. What I've been focused on is our slice of the fight right here in Elgin, St. Thomas, London South. And I think that the conversations that I was having at the door were really indicative of the fact that there is a strong appetite for change. People are not happy with the Liberals, but at the end of the day, this is the result we have to live with.
So there you have it, and I guess if you are a true blue Conservative, hope as always abounds. And by that I mean, given that the Liberals have a minority, the typical lifespan of a minority government in Canada is around 18 months to 2 years. So maybe before you know it, there will be yet another snap election. Perhaps things will turn out a little better for the Conservatives in a rematch. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Well, folks, was that an election campaign like none we have ever seen? Certainly, that's what I think. If you appreciate our coverage and you want to see all of our videos, please go to campaign2025.com. That's campaign2025.com. And if you're able to, kindly make a donation so that Rebel News can continue to bring you the other side of the story.